Recall that the active site is where the substrate normally binds to the enzyme. Mixed inhibitors can bind to the allosteric site of the free enzyme, similar to competitive inhibitors, or the enzyme-substrate complex, similar to uncompetitive inhibitors, to prevent the enzyme's catalytic activity. So you can think of them as a mix between competitive and uncompetitive inhibitors. If we take a look at the Lineweaver-Burke plot for mixed inhibitors, we see that the Vmax decreases, but Km can actually increase or decrease depending on whether the mixed inhibitor mimics competitive or uncompetitive inhibitors more. So let's go back to the music chairs analogy one more time. To revisit our musical chairs analogy, recall that you're the substrate and the chair is the enzyme. It's just you and the chair in your room and you start to play. Once the music stops playing, you sit on the chair and you have won your game of musical chairs, as long as there's no inhibitor. So we still have you as the substrate and the chair as the enzyme, but let's add both your friend and your baby brother collectively as the mixed inhibitor. Your friend is competing against you, and your baby brother cries and kicks you once you sit on the chair. Both your desire to play and your chances of winning are affected, so both Km and Vmax changes.
Fun fact, inhibitors can also be irreversible. As a classic example, penicillin is an irreversible inhibitor that binds to the enzyme that produces the bacterial cell wall, eventually causing it to swell, burst, and die.
So to summarize, we had your friend as the competitive inhibitor who played fair and was competing with you. We had your other friend as the non-competitive inhibitor who didn't exactly play fair and disfigured the chair. We had your little brother as the uncompetitive inhibitor who cried and kicked you once you sat on the chair. And we had the mixed inhibitor as a combination between the competitive and uncompetitive inhibitors. So let's revisit the Michaelis-Menten model for competitive and non-competitive inhibitors. Recall that for competitive inhibitors, your Vmax doesn't change, but your parent Km increases, and for non-competitive inhibitors, the Vmax decreases, but the Km doesn't change. Now let's revisit Lineweaver-Burke summary for competitive, uncompetitive, and non-competitive inhibition. Since competitive inhibition does not affect Vmax, the y-intercept stays the same. For uncompetitive inhibition, both Km and Vmax are reduced, but by the same factor, so the slope of Km over Vmax doesn't change. For non-competitive inhibitors, the Km is not affected, so the x-intercept stays the same. So in summary, competitive inhibitors show no change in the Vmax and increase Km, resulting in the same y-intercept. Non-competitive inhibitors decrease Vmax with no change in Km, resulting in the same x-intercept. Uncompetitive inhibitors decrease both Vmax and Km in the same ratio, so the slope stays the same. Mixed inhibitors decrease Vmax and changes Km, so nothing stays the same.